We continue now at the top of Daf Samech Aleph Amid Beis in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 61b. On the previous summit, the Gemara was discussing the part of the Mishnah which says that if a person says Ad Lifnei HaPesach, so according to Rabbi Meir, that just means the neder lasts until Pesach, and Rabbi Yossi says it lasts through Pesach. And so the Gemara says, does that mean to say that according to Rabbi Meir, a person does not bring himself into lisveika, into a suffix situation? Meaning a person is going to say a phrase, it's not going to be a vague kind of phrase, we don't know what it means and we have to prohibit through Pesach. Rather, we're going to say that it means until Pesach and only until Pesach. But Rabbi Yossi sovereign, Rabbi Yossi seems to hold in the Mishnah, a person will bring himself into a suffix situation, meaning he will say something that is vague, and therefore we have to assume that maybe the prohibition lasts through the entire Pesach. But the Gemara says, Uramini, we have the following contradiction. It says, Misha yeshlo shtei kitei bonos mishtei nashim. Let's say a person has two sets of daughters from two different wives. V'amar kidashti es biti agadol, and he says that I gave my daughter, the gedola daughter, to kedushin. And now again, it's a vague kind of phrase. Ve'eni odem gedola shebegedolos. I don't know if that means the oldest of the oldest set of daughters. Im gedola shebeketanos, or maybe it means the oldest of the younger set of daughters. V'im ketana shebegedolos, or maybe it means the youngest of the older set of daughters. She gedola min hagedola shebeketanos, because that daughter is older than the oldest of the younger set of daughters. So the halach is, according to Rabbi Meir, kulan asuros, everybody is asur. Divrei Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, chutz min haketana shebeketanos, except the youngest of the younger set of daughters. That girl we know for sure is not included in the kedushin, but everybody else, it's a situation of a suffix. You have to assume that maybe any other one of the daughters had the kedushin. And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Yossi says, kulan mutaros, the other way around. Everybody is mutar, chutz min hagedolos shebegedolos, except the oldest daughter of the older set of daughters. And so you see the exact opposite. Rabbi Meir is the one that says that the vague language is unclear, and therefore we have to be machmir. And Rabbi Yossi says, no, on the contrary, if he says this kind of language, we can assume that he only means the most lenient meaning of the phrase, meaning he's only referring to the oldest daughter of the older set of daughters. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Chanina bar Avdimi. Rabbi Chanina bar Avdimi says, Amar Rav, that Rav says, Muchlefes hashita. You have to switch around the shitos in our Mishnah, meaning in our Mishnah Nedarim, it's actually Rabbi Meir who's the one that is strict and says through Pesach, and Rabbi Yossi is lenient and says until Pesach, and we keep the Mishnah in Kiddushin that we just quoted, we keep that the same. And the Gemara continues, Vatanya, we have a brisa that supports this. The brisa says, Klal, here's the rule, Kol shezmano kavua v'yamar ad lifnei. Anytime you have something that has a fixed time, and you use the phrase ad lifnei, Rabbi Meir Omer ad sheyetze, it's Rabbi Meir that's strict, and he says through that time period, for example, through Pesach. Rabbi Yossi Omer ad sheagi, and Rabbi Yossi is the one that says it is until it arrives, meaning until Pesach, not through Pesach. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Ad HaKotzir, let's say a person makes a neder until the harvest, the wheat harvest, Ad HaBotzir, or until the grape harvest, or Ad HaMasik, until the olive harvest, Eino Aser Ella Ad Sheyagia. So in those situations, the prohibition only lasts until those seasons arrive. Zeh HaKlal, and the rule is as follows. Kol shezmano kavu, if you have something with a fixed time, let's say you have a holiday that has a fixed date, v'yomer ad sheyagia, and let's say you use the phrase ad sheyagia, so aser ad sheyagia, so then the prohibition is only until that time, not through that time. Amar ad sheyehei, but if you say ad sheyehei by something with a fixed time, like a holiday, so aser ad sheyetze, so then the prohibition is through that entire holiday. V'chol she'ein zmano kavua, but let's say it's something where the time is not fixed, like a season, like harvesting, so then bein amar ad sheyehei, bein amar ad sheyagia, then it doesn't matter if you say ad sheyehei or ad sheyagia, eino aser ella ad sheyagia, the prohibition only lasts until it arrives, not through the entire season. Ad hakayitz, ad sheyehei kayitz. So, for example, let's say he says ad hakayitz or ad sheyehei kayitz. So that means ad sheyaschilu ha'am lahachnas bechalkolos. That means until kayitz, which means until the people start to bring things into the baskets. That's considered kayitz. Ad sheyavor hakayitz. Now, if the person would use the phrase until kayitz is over, so that already means ad sheyakfilu hamiksos. That means when people put away the knives. So then that's the end of the kayitz season. And the Ran explains, Ad HaKayitz, Ad Sheyehei HaKayitz, Ad Sheyaschilu Ha'am Lahachnas Bechalkolos, again, until the Kayitz, until summer. That means it's the time that the people begin to put things in the baskets. Kayitz is man lakitas peiros te'enim. Kayitz means it's the beginning of the collection of the figs. V'kari le'kayitz lefisha kotzitzin osan biyad. The Ran says we call it Kayitz because they would cut them by hand. V'katani dekevan damar Ad HaKayitz. So we're saying, when you say Ad HaKayitz, or Ad Sheyehei, or you say, let's say the phrase Ad Sheyehei, Ad Sheyaschilu Ha'am Lahachnas Bechalkolos, bechalkalos. Again, that's the beginning of the kayetz season, when people start to put things into the baskets. That's when the neder is over, at the beginning of kayetz. V'lo yoser, not more than that. Lefisha ein zmanon kavua. Again, this is an example of something that is not a zman kavua. But yikbalu hamiksos. But if you would say until kayetz passes, then it's when the knives are put away. Hasakinim shem yuchodim lachto chateinim. These are the knives that they used to cut the figs. Kishaosim mehen igulin. They would make these circles of pressed figs. Nikroin miksoos. That's called miksoos. V'hachi eshkechon dekari kral sakinim miksoos. We find this in the pasuk as well. Dechsiv yasem miksoos. V'afa igulin atzman nikroim kein alshman. Also the pressed figs themselves, those circles of figs, they're also called the same thing because of the name that refers to the knives. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, Kalkola sha'amru, when they talk about the basket at the end of the Mishnah, Kalkola shel ta'enim, that refers to a basket of figs, velo Kalkola shel anavim. We're not talking about the basket of grapes. In other words, when you say ad hakayetz, and we say it means when the people begin to put things in the baskets, we're talking about figs, as the Ran said. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, hanoder mi peiros hakayetz. Let's say someone takes a neder that he's not going to eat from the fruits of the kayetz. Ein aser ela b'teinim. Along the same lines, the prohibition refers only to figs. The word kayetz refers to figs. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer anovim bichlal ta'enim. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, he disagrees. He says that the grapes are included in the figs. And the Gemara explains, my time in the Tanakama. What's the reason of the Tanakama? Kasavar ta'enim miksasan biyada. Anovim lo miksasan biyada. He holds that figs are cut by hand and grapes are not cut by hand, and therefore the word kayetz, when you say peiros hakayetz, refers specifically to ta'enim, to figs. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel savar anavim nami kimir dedon miksasan biyada. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel disagrees, and he says that by grapes, when they are ripe, so then they are cut by hand, so they can be included as well. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, "Ad sheyavar hakayetz ad sheyichpelu hamikzoos." If you say until the kayetz passes, so then it means when you put away the knives. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught ad sheyachfilu rov hamikzoos. What we're talking about here is the majority of the knives, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf 61b Amud Aleph.